Hi, this is Sean Ying and Julie Lawrenson. This is the VOLTHA TST meeting uh, on December. Today's what? The
19th.
19th.
December 19th, Tuesday. Um, so okay. So David, um, there are emails back and forth, right? So I think it seems that the CalSoft they prefer to have the testing done in Siena facility. So this last email I saw from CalSoft was they have some software need to be loaded on the Edge core box. Do you know the status on that? I don't see the CalSoft is here or Kim is. I don't see Kim either.
Yep. So the last status I have for that is the image has been updated on the box itself, and what's left is to install the updated valve driver, and it's on the box, and it's waiting for CalSoft to deploy it. It was given to them last night, Pacific time. I haven't heard this morning yet if they actually installed the latest valve driver or not.
Okay.
So the hardware updates should all be available to them right now.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sienna, for for all these resources, working on this one. Do we? I think in parallel, I saw Shad was here earlier. Is he still here? Shad dropped. Um, I wonder whether they, in parallel, they're pursuing on the ONF connectivity also. So, do
Not that I'm aware of. The last email I saw from Luca was he was having problems with the VPN.
okay. Okay, so but right now connectivity to Sienna side, your lab is definitely up and running right now.
Yes.
They've been,
Yes, it is.
okay, great, thank you very much. So I think Björn just joined. Julie, are you up and running?
I am just now in, so yes.
Okay. I think it's I think it's about 5 o'clock the Björn's time. So Julie, do you want to start with some of the TST regular items first before we get Björn start talking?
I will leave that up to Björn's preference. I think we're ready to start with his presentation. If he's ready, like a few more minutes, then we can wait.
Okay. I think Björn's probably trying to dial in.
Connected over the phone, yeah.
And last Tuesday, we actually had, the Sundar gave a presentation regarding to the OpenCon's, the OpenOMCI proposal. I still meant to have a internal meeting to discuss that proposal. So sorry for the delay on that one. So I may use the email thread to discuss the doability regarding to the proposal within the TST meeting, within the TST group. And the other reminder is, I think, Julie, we do want people to update the documentation, right? Because the 1.2 release is the documentation and bug fix release.
Yes, that's the main item to talk about in terms of status for Sprint 4, really. We've talked a bit about adapter issues, and then the other item is the documentation updates. And I believe most, if not all of those, are still in the to-do state, so nothing is in progress yet. So we do have a little more time now through that first week of January, but we do want to make sure the documentation updates do get completed in time.
Okay. Björn, are you on?
So Sean, if you want to make me presenter,
Okay.
then I can bring my screen up.
How do I make you a presenter?
Right click on my name, should be in there somewhere. Yes, right click on my name.
Make presenter. Okay.
Yes. Okay. And so hopefully everyone sees the VOLTHA Sprint 4 up on the screen. And as we were mentioning, the release notes are all pretty much in the to-do state at this point. And then we have the majority of the adapter issues that are in this sprint that are in progress at this point, and a few of them have completed. So there's a quick recap of where we are in that, and just a reminder that the updated date is January 5th, and so we do have a little more time for this sprint to try and wrap up the documentation and the adapter issues. And then also, this is the last TST call we'll be holding this year, so we're not holding a meeting on this Thursday or next week, and we'll resume meetings in January on, I believe it's the 2nd, on January 2nd.
And then immediately the week after, we're going to have the lockdown. So
Yes.
I have a few confirmed, and I appreciate if you confirm you'll be present for the lockdown. That'll be great. If there's any issue, let me know. But right now, we do have AT&T and Deutsche Telekom, and NTT will be present during the technical lockdown. And we still don't have Björn up. Can someone tell a joke? I love that movie. No, sorry. I don't know. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, The Moonstruck. the grandfather at the end, just like everybody's waiting for the the guy to show up, and there's can someone tell a joke? I love that movie.
Okay, so we'll wait for Björn to be able to get connected, and let me go see if anything new has come in for VOLTHA while we're waiting. Whoops, did not want to make the screen that big for myself. Okay, I don't believe we have any new issues that have come in since our last, well, let's see, so this is, actually this one I think was since our last meeting. So VOLTHA 578 is, I believe, a new ticket probably since our previous discussion, which came in just after our last meeting. So this was adding support, let's see, to be able to configure VOLTHA to interop either with console or etcd, and thus enable performance comparisons between the two.
Yeah, this is a 1.3 for VOLTHA. It could even be a 2.0.
Okay, thank you.
So what we can see is Sienna. I mean, the community, mostly Sienna is start creating the story for the Kubernetes support, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's great.
And do we want to place this one temporarily for now in 1.3, or Sean, do you have a sense there for your preference?
Let's put it 1.3.
Okay.
And then group them together, and then I guess right now probably we don't know exactly.
And we'll find
How
out. We're doing the planning that
Yeah.
as well. Okay. All right. Just checking if Björn was able to join.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in.
Excellent. And
the Chip was doing some study regarding to the existing adapter OMCI stack. So I think he posted something on the VOLTHA discussed. So that's another 1.3 related issue. Thanks, Chip, for doing that. Chip, I think your email explained pretty clearly. I think that's another big topic we need to address in 1.3. Chip, is there anything you want to say before we move?
Yeah, that was just the thing I posted was just a spreadsheet of some of the coverage in the library and how some of the adapters use the MEs with relationship to the OpenOMCI specification. And probably a little bit later this week, and through the end of the year, I'm going to go through and try to get some diagrams together, maybe some sequence diagrams, or how OMCI is currently being used, so we have a sort of an as-built as we start thinking about if we're rolling our own OMCI, where to go, where to start from, and where to go. Okay.
I wonder one thing is we can create maybe on the Jira have some kind of repository for some of the stuff like that. Maybe I think Julie and Tim.
Yeah, I added a wiki page for it.
Okay.
So there's a wiki page with the current document in it, and then I just sort of have the skeleton of some of the as-built information, and I'll just be adding it there. And I believe it might have been in the message I posted on VOLTHA Discuss, the proper link.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for taking a step on that and start working on those. Julie, back to you.
yes. So Björn, if you're ready, I will go ahead and give you presenter rights so you can present your material.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Okay. Let me start on this. So, everybody see the slides in presenter mode?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, what I would like to do here right now is to give some more details on these two use cases from DT, on the FTDH use case and on the FTDB use case. Yeah, each use case is divided in 3 slides. So we have one with a bullet point which explains a little bit things, and then we have one which is related to the OMCI model with a picture, and the third slide is a picture of the layer 2 traffic handling, let me say. So let's start with the first one, the FTDH one. For the FTDH use case, we are currently using a bridged ONT with a single gigabit Ethernet interface as a uni port, and a single GPON interface towards the OLT. And we don't have any plans to change it. In case we would change it towards an integrated ONT with some gateway functions or something like that, from our perspective, the most important change would be that we don't talk about a physical Ethernet port, then we would talk about a virtual Ethernet interface port towards the home gateway functionalities, but these are more or less out of scope of this use case. So therefore, we take the approach of the single port bridged version and go ahead. So first of all, we have the discovering mechanism. If a new ONT is connected to the pond tree, we have to have at the more or less at the end of the initial process, we need a port up message which contains at least the serial number and the registration ID. So the registration ID we absolutely need for our higher or backend processes. Nevertheless, so as far we understood the Maple up to now, it will be in that way that initially it comes with a serial number. The serial number will be reported, and then an automatically process has to run that this serial number that there will be assigned an owner ID to this serial number, and the initial ranging process will be finalized, and then informations like the registration ID could be fetched from the ONT and reported towards the controller. So that's what we need at least. Nevertheless, in that case, maybe other informations are available and could be also included in these port up messages. It's not strictly needed, but maybe it is sensible for some other processes. So these information addressing ONT type or software version or something similar.
So Björn, you're saying the first of all, the serial number will establish the connectivity, and then once the owners assign the port number, then the registration ID will be reported upstream. Is that correct?
Yes, that's how we understood the working of the Maple chipset. So the Maple, as far as I understood that from the Broadcom guys, the Maple will not be able to make these initial things based on the registration ID, and then that's I guess, or that's my understanding, that's more or less in line with the ITUT. So
okay.
So therefore you need to, or it's needed to bring up the ONT in a state 05, and only in that state you can fetch additional information.
Okay.
So the next step will be the provisioning of the ONT with some line profiles for Gemport and TCONT mapping. There we have some more details on the next slide. But also some more details here written in a written manner. So the ONT will use a mapping process based on the p-bit value of the user frames. So each p-bit value will be mapped, or each frame with a certain p-bit value will be mapped in a dedicated Gemport. And so that means we have 8 p-bit values, so we have 8 Gemports, and each Gemport belongs to a dedicated queue, and these queues will be handled according to strict priority, and then transferred with a single TCONT, then a single TCONT based on assured and best effort bandwidth.
So the p-bit has I think mostly has 8 3 bits, right? So you have 8 different setting. So
yes.
So for the subscriber traffic, you expecting to utilize all 8 state or how do you say that, or just some of them?
No, all.
All.
So
okay.
It's not allowed, or the use case does not allow to drop any customer traffic according to a wrong p-bit setting or something like that.
Okay.
So all p-bits have to be transferred, and in that case, to keep it simple, we decided to keep the p-bits in the same as it is received from the customer. So there's also no translation of p-bits or something like that.
Okay.
In the FTDH use case.
Okay.
So, okay, the OMCI, so the management and control channel for the ONT, using a separate path with its own gem port and TCON. So it's not in conflict with the data plane traffic. Here we're using a fixed bandwidth for that control path. And then, as I mentioned, yeah. Any questions? Okay. The ONT is a bridged version, and it's fully transparent. So there will no VLAN tag will be changed, no VLAN will be added or stripped, no p-bit will be changed or something like that. So the ONT should be pretty simple and pretty transparent. And then the OLT must add an outer VLAN tag, an S tag to the frames coming from the user, and these S tag represents the customer. So in an FTDH use case, it represents the ONT. In fact, so and the p-bit value for that S tag is derived from the C tag, so it's just copied. Here is in that bullet point here. I'm talking about special rules. So we don't have these in mind for FTDH, but for FTDB it's slightly different. But for FTDH there are no special rules up to now. There's a simple copy function from the C tag, from the p-bit value in the C tag. Or, and that's also what is mentioned later on, if we are talking about business services, then it's conceivable that the customer sends already traffic with more than one C tag, so with 2 or 3 C tag levels, and then we copy the p-bit from the most outer tag, from the most outer C tag. So represents the customer. I already mentioned that. The OLT operates in a VLAN cross-connect mode, and all customer tags are transferred transparently. So that it includes the VLAN ID value is not known. For the C tags, the value is not known, and also multiple level of VLAN tags are allowed on the customer side for business services. So that's the general explanation of these use cases. Here an OMCI model which depicts what I already mentioned. We have the physical path termination point on the left hand side. That's the Ethernet UNI interface. There's optional an extended VLAN tagging operational config data message entity, where you can handle some manipulation, but it's optional because it's not required up to now in the FTDH use case. So then we have these mapper which maps the different p-bit values into the different gem interworking functions. Each gem belongs to a separate queue with a different priority. And then everything is handled via a single TCON and via the PON interface. So that's pretty simple from our perspective. And here we have it where we have a picture of the VLAN handling. So you have on the CPE side, so that means on the customer side, you have the VLANs X, Y, and Z. These values are not known. X, Y, and Z can be equal, but can be different as well. So you don't have any control or any knowledge about these tag. ONT is fully transparent, so you have the same X, Y, and Z on the uplink side of the ONT, added by the ONT ID or ONO ID, representing the ONU that will be delivered to the Maple And then the OLT has to add an S tag. It's mentioned here on the uplink of the OLT with a small bubble of A, B, and C. A, B, and C must be unique per OLT because these values representing the customer, or in fact the ONTs. Then we have a bigger bubble, was also mentioned with A, B, and C, but there's no relation between these. The bigger bubble represents a pseudo-wire label. So, and then as you can see on the right lower text box, these segment routing labels, these pseudo-wire things, maybe not part for the initial release, maybe a part of a later release. So all the other things mentioned here are I already talked about. One thing is still open. That's the case, or the process for the hardware exchange case, because there are some relations inside the Maple for ONU ID and serial number, and these fixed relations are maybe not optimal. Or not perfect for a hardware exchange. I'm not sure. We are talking about, or we are in contact with Broadcom talking about things, but nevertheless, it's also an option to have to handle these special use case in an owner's app or somewhere higher than the OLT, higher than Maple and BAL, and maybe also higher than VOLTHA. So that's not decided yet. For this.
On that.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that, basically is the owner's ID, the owner's is that port ID and the serial number mapping, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Intuitively, I think it should be a much higher level instead on the Maple physical layer. But
yeah, I'm afraid that because today, as far as we understood the Maple mechanisms, the Maple has a fixed relation between the provisioned, more or less provisioned from higher layer systems or from systems higher on the network, the provisioned ONU ID and the retrieved serial number from the ONT. And in case of hardware changing, you have to break up this relation somehow. Otherwise, if you're still assigning a new ONU ID, then maybe after a few cycles of hardware exchange, you're running out of your ONU ID range. But it's at least on DT side, we have not finally decided how to handle this case. Therefore, it is not elaborated in detail here in this slide deck, and we need some more discussions about that. Not only inside DT, also with the Broadcom guys together, and maybe also with the VOLTHA team. So
yeah,
it's still.
I guess the equipment replacement. So basically, right now maybe you have to deprovision everything and then reprovision everything, right? So I think the goal is you want to don't tear down the services. Is that what the goal? So when we can just replace the hardware without rebuilding the circuit in some way.
I think the deprovisioning and reprovisioning is an option, of course,
right.
but it is a special process for that.
Right.
So, and the initial idea was to have it very, very flexible, without any additional processes. So that means in our case, what we had initially in mind, that we base all these things on the registration ID, because the registration ID is the same also after hardware exchange, we use always the same registration ID for the same customer, and the ONU ID is it's just the ID between the Maple and the ONT, and could be every time or has not to be stable. NISA for a reboot of the ONT. Also, after a reboot of the ONT, the ONU ID could be a different one. But that's not the case if you are using Maple. That's what I've learned, or what I believe I have understood. Therefore, we have to talk a little bit more about this process in general, because we believe that there is an additional process for hardware change needed, and these could be the deprovisioning and reprovisioning.
But we
potential candidate, of course.
Of course, we prefer not to do that, right? So that's definitely. I think that's probably the service provider, the DT and AT&T. We probably do need to provide a clear use cases on that scenario, the ONT, the hardware replacement scenario. Yeah. So does the does the community right now has any comment regarding to this specific scenario? Because I'm curious. I'm wondering. Yeah. So it seems like when I hear you say the Broadcom Maple need to do something, and there's maybe some hardware change or the software need to support some of that. I was a little bit surprised on that one. So.
And then I think not the Maple has to do something. I think the provisioning system has to do something, whatever that is. So it's some kind of an app which is running on a controller, or that's most probably the way the Maple will not be able to do anything for that. So.
But I'm wondering whether that's just the Maple issue, or the other FPGA-based chipset also have the same concern. Or what I'm saying is, can this same model apply to Maple and other chip, right? So anybody else has any comment?
I think if you realize these hardware exchange with a different process based on your controller apps, then it can run with every chipset, not only with Maple.
Yeah.
If you have another maybe an FPGA solution which is able to do something different, which makes it easier for the operator, that might be special for these FPGA or something like that, and might be not transferable to any other chipset.
Yeah.
So, in terms of interoperability or using different chipsets, it might, or most probably, you have to define a dedicated process for this use case.
Okay.
That's my feeling, at least. So.
Okay. Anybody has any question before we move on to the fiber to the building use case?
I have a quick question, Sean.
Okay.
The first bullet at the top left. Could you explain that a little bit more? All CPEs will send packets tagged with the same C tag.
Yeah, that's in our current residential case. That all CPEs, so that means X, Y, and Z, have the same value. In fact, it is a value 7 for in DT residential use case. But that's a very legacy residential setup. So it's not clear if that will be used in an SDN NFV environment as well. And the other hand is that we not have only DT residential customers connected to the PON tree. We also have to connect other operators, users, and these might come already today with a different value. So
okay,
so
I think I understand. So it's understood that the ONU is going to push another tag on top of this to uniquely identify the subscriber.
Okay. You say that the ONU or ONT in that case is assigning another VLAN ID?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that what you're describing, I'm trying to draw an analogy to what AT&T is doing now. AT&T has everything is priority tagged, so just a 0 bid with P bits coming from the CPE, and then the ONU tags with unique provisioned C tag, and then that goes to the ONU, the S tag takes place.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
but you need the C tag.
So the C tag, yeah, the ONU is supposed to assign a C tag on that, so that's part of the provisioning process. But let's we definitely I think let's give Björn complete his presentation, and then I think there's different model we can discuss that later time frame.
I would try to be a little bit faster with the FTTB use case because there's a lot of similarities with the FTTH one, and I will try to highlight the differences. So,
okay.
So the discovering is probably the same. What is different is that we have, beside the OMCI control channel, we have a second control channel for the access node part of the DPU. So in general, the DPU, in our perspective, has two parts. One is the access node. Let me say the access node part, which belongs to which contains of the G.fast interfaces and maybe a switching instance. And we have the ONU part or ONT part, which is controlled by OMCI from our perspective. And between these two parts, we have a virtual Ethernet interface point. So that's from our perspective the most interesting difference, and all which belongs to the ONU part is controlled by OMCI, and all what belongs to the access node part is controlled by a non-OMCI protocol, whatever that is. That may be NetConv, but also other things are conceivable for that. And that means that on the PON tree we have the data plane traffic, we have the OMCI part, which is separate as we have it in the FTTH use case, and we have the control channel for the non-OMCI domain, which is running on the same path as the data plane traffic. So that would lead to a situation if we just copy the P bits from the customer side, and we have in general we have the same model. I jump to that one. We have in general the same model. We just take the traffic from, you see it on the left hand side. There are all 8 or 16 G.fast customers connected, and all these traffic is only according to the P-bit value separated to the different gem ports. So that means each gem port contains traffic, or may contain traffic, from all 16 or 8 customers connected to the DPU. And we have only these 8 passes where we have the data plane traffic and the control traffic from the non-OMCI domain. So therefore, our current idea is, it's not in a final discussion state, but the current idea is, if there is traffic coming from the customer with the priority 7, with the P-bit 7, then these P-bit will be translated to P0, just to keep the path for the P7 clear, and then we will map the management non-OMCI control channel into that path with the P7. So that's one and only that's the major difference. So that's and the other difference is that the DPU or ONU is not transparent anymore as the ONT in the FTTH use case, because here in that case the ONU has to set up the S-tag according to the G.fast port, and the OLT is in that case transparent. So these are the two major differences between these two use cases.
Hey Björn,
Yeah,
I'm curious. So you say, for the data traffic coming in as P7, then you make it P0, right?
Yes.
So you'll vacate the P7 gen port and basically queues for the management of the DPU. But why so dramatic? Isn't that P7 has the highest priority, right? So if you wouldn't that be? I don't know. I just thought from P7 and change it to P0. You basically.
Yeah, the reason for that is that in general there is no case there's no service we are using where the user generates P7 traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you send P7 traffic, then it's most likely manipulated by the user,
Okay,
just to catch the highest priority queue. And therefore we thought about two options. One is drop, and the other one is translate to the lowest priority queue.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, we decided to not drop any traffic at this point, and therefore we kept the idea to translate it to P0. But as I mentioned, it's not the final state of the discussion. So the discussion is still ongoing, but it's close to be final. So.
And the translation is done on the DPU, right? Or on the ONU side?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. The translation can be realized on that's the user traffic. That can be realized on the switching part of the on the switching of the access node part. So on the DPU side, not on the ONU side.
No. Okay.
So therefore, it has not been initialized by OMCI. What we may be that depends a little bit on the DPUs. So we have to use a dedicated VLAN and the dedicated P7 for the management traffic.
Right.
And if the CPU of the DPU sets up the management channel with a different set of VLAN and P-bit, then the DPU, then the ONU part, that's mentioned here with the extended VLAN tagging operation, ME, then the OMCI domain has to change it before it will be mapped into the gem ports. So that's an option. If the DPU generates the management traffic already with the right VLAN and P-bit, that's fine. But if you're using different DPUs, then probably you will also have DPUs which are using a different VLAN and different P-bit settings for the management channel. And if it is not changeable, or if the vendor is not able to change it for the initial setup for the DPU after power down, then it has to be, or it must be changed via the OMCI domain. So that's what we have discussed.
Okay.
Inside DT, and therefore that is our proposal to handle it. For now, it is not. We are starting with some testing. So we don't have it. That's more or less shardware.
Okay.
Established in any lab trial or something like that.
And
So,
okay, I'll let you finish your presentation first. Yeah.
yeah, and in general, I'm done. So that's here we have the slide with the VLANs again, and with these bubbles, and there is what I mentioned already. So we have here on the CPE side the same X, Y, and Z user VLANs or CTECs, which are where we have no knowledge about the values and things like that. And then we have the DPU, which is adding the STEC according to the GFAST port. And then we have north of the DPU already multiple tech traffic with the transparent CTEC, and with the STEC. STEC, the ABC tag here, has to be unique per OLT. So there must be a control mechanism north of the OLT. Okay. The STEC, and then we have one DPU ID, so that's coming from the PON protocol, and then the OLT is in transparent mode, and on north of the OLT we don't have any ONU ID, of course. We still have the transparent CTEC XYZ. We have the DPU assigned STEC ABC. And we have maybe in a later release by the OLT assigned pseudo-wire A, B, and C with a bigger bubble. So and that's in general. And here in red is again the sentence related to the hardware exchange. Maybe I will delete that in the current version. Because we should finalize the discussion or do the discussion in a different stream, in a different use case scenario, to not mix up things. So it's maybe not a final wording there, and maybe more misleading than helping. So and that's in general, that's all from my side. So.
About the timeline. So the FTTH basically, I think some of the 1.2 release will capture the registration ID portion of that, right? But I think the whole I don't know how the community will be involved on the VLAN assignment or all that kind of stuff. So can you give us a very brief description? I mean, the estimate regarding to the DT's timeline regarding to the FTTH and also the FTTB trial.
For the FTTH, I think a lot of things are handled in some higher management components and applications. So therefore, I think if we have the support of the registration ID, I think that there is a ticket open on the Broadcom side, because they only support 10 digits for the registration ID. That's a little bit contradictory. That's not fully in line with the ITU standards, but that's not important for the moment. But I think we have a lot of things we need, and all what we need, and is not supported by community aspects. We have a DT solution for that, so that the FTTH, we have it running in the lab. But if I say we have it running, then we have it running with a single customer, because there's still an issue with the Vlan handling. That's what we are addressing, or what is also addressed on the Broadcom side already.
Mm-hmm.
And the timeline for that, was in general end of this year, and with one customer it's running, so everything is in green. But of course we need it for more than only one customer.
Yeah.
And that's what we focus on the first quarter next year. The FTTB comes after that. So we have a little bit more time for that. The question is, I think for the VOLTHA 2.0, there's a DPU adapter planned for the VOLTHA. I think that could be an option to try to use that one to have such a case running. But I don't know exactly a detailed time plan for the FTTB use case for DT. I will take this with me and come back to you later or beginning next year, early in January, with that information.
Okay.
Because I have to ask the program management on our side.
Yeah. No. Okay. Thank you for this. So AT&T right now, we also trying to put the comparable use case together, at least on the FTTB side. So we expect the AT&T will present our use case on FTTB in I think when the year begins. And Björn, thank you very much for this presentation. If you don't mind, maybe Julie, do you think we can? I think Tim left. Maybe we put this use case on the wiki. I think that we can if DT agreed to do that. I think I got a reminder regarding to the 9 o'clock meeting for the M-Court. I think they're using the same bridge.
Yeah. We need to wrap up in about 3 minutes.
Yeah. So Julie, do you want to? I'll bring this back to you.
Okay. If you can give me presenter rights again. So Björn, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah. Okay. I have to give you the presenter rights back?
Or Sean can do it as well.
Okay, great.
Sean can, yes, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think the last thing for us to kind of look over quickly is I wanted to recap where we are with some of the action items from our previous meeting or from a couple meetings back. And so we did hear at the beginning of the call about the progress Chip has made on that comparison of the MEs in the current library with OpenMPI, and there's more info on that on VOLTHA Discuss. We did also have an action item for service providers to develop and prioritize use cases for OpenMPI, and the target for that was end of year. Sean, I don't know where we stand on that, if that will end up being more like early January, do you think?
Probably, yes.
Probably, okay. And then the last item I wanted to quickly discuss before we drop the bridge is that we also had a call for volunteers to give presentations for architecture and framework proposals for OpenMPI implementation. And so we're looking at doing that comparison or the discussion of proposals on the Thursday of the first week of January, so January 4th. And at this point, I don't have anyone lined up to give presentations. And I know we're about out of time, but if there are companies or SMEs who would like to give a presentation on a proposal for that architecture and framework for OpenMPI implementation, please let me know so we can put you on the agenda for the first week of January, the Thursday call. And I think that is it, and we are about out of time. Last call for comments before we drop the bridge. Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I think we're done. So Björn, thank you very much for the presentation from DT. And if you are comfortable having that placed